It wasn't built to be beautiful. It wasn't built for tourists, nor for drone photos. The Great Wall of China was born from one thing: fear. Before these stones, the inevitable question arises: what drives an empire to build a wall thousands of kilometers long? How many lives are you willing to sacrifice to keep an enemy away? Can a wall really stop an invasion? Or does it simply become the scar of something much bigger? We call it the Great Wall of China, but this name isn't enough. It doesn't tell the story of the hands that built it. It doesn't tell the story of the bodies that never returned home. It doesn't tell the story of the freezing nights, the invasions, the fires, the kings who feared the darkness and the enemies hidden beyond the horizon. Before being a tourist attraction, before photos and organized trips, this wall was a border between two worlds. On one side, the cultivated fields, the cities, the roads, the villages where life flowed slowly. On the other, emptiness. Endless steppes, horsemen swift as storms, people accustomed to appearing and disappearing into thin air, leaving only smoke and fear in their wake. For centuries in northern China, the same threat returned over and over again: sudden cavalcades, villages burned, crops stolen, emperors changed, dynasties fell and rose again. But the terror of seeing, at any moment, a sea of horses and spears appear remained like a nightmare you couldn't forget. At first, the answer wasn't a single wall. There were many. Smaller, more fragile. Walls of tamped earth, isolated forts, wooden palisades built in a hurry and torn down in a hurry. Each generation added a piece. Each king built his part, convinced he was the one who could stop the enemy forever. No one truly succeeded. Then comes a time when fear becomes a project. A man rises to power with a fixed idea: to unify everything: rules, roads, weights, measures, and even the walls. The emperor, remembered by history as the first to sit on a throne called China, looks north and sees only one thing: a weak border, a border full of holes. And he decides that those holes must disappear. From that moment on, the wall ceases to be a confusing collection of barriers and begins to transform into a single creature. A line that must cross mountains, deserts, rivers, and valleys. No longer isolated walls, but a single body of stone, bricks, and towers. A serpent that, in order to be born, demands sacrifices from millions of people. The first teams arrive on the mountain crests. There is nothing there. There are no roads, no houses, only rock, snow in winter, unbearable heat in summer. The orders are clear. A wall will rise here. Soldiers, smoke signals, urgent messages will pass through here. Here, where today there is nothing, someone will have to risk their lives to fill the void. Men taken from the countryside, farmers who have never left their villages, prisoners, soldiers, artisans. They are pushed north like a human river. None of them know if they will return. Many will not return. For those who govern, however, the wall is not just a wall. It is a message. A way to tell the entire world and their own people that China's border cannot be touched, that the empire can bend but not break. What none of them imagines is that, centuries later, millions of people will walk on those stones, taking photos and videos, telling the story with ease. Unaware that beneath every step there could be a name that was never written anywhere. This is where our journey begins. Not from the perfect postcard of the wall at sunset, but from a very specific question. How much can the safety of an empire cost in lives and fear? The construction site of the Great Wall was born on the crests of mountains, in places where there was nothing before, only rock, steep slopes. There are no machines, cranes, or roads. The stone blocks are dragged by hand, pushed up the slopes, loaded into baskets on the shoulders. Rows of men pass the weight back to back, like a living chain. Those who fall are injured, get up and start working again. Stopping is not an option. It would mean being replaced and forgotten. During the day, work is a constant noise. Hammers, sharp blows on stone, shouted orders, the heavy footsteps of those carrying materials. At night, silence covers everything again, broken only by the crackling of fires. Some think of the family left behind in the villages of the south. Others keep their eyes fixed on the north, where the arrival of the horsemen from the steppes is feared. The workforce arrives from every direction. Requisitioned farmers, condemned prisoners, soldiers, artisans. The official explanation is simple: building the wall to defend the empire. But there's more to it. A wall of this size doesn't just keep enemies out, it also serves to control those within. It regulates passages, goods, the movement of people. It's a constant reminder of the power of the throne, If the emperor can bend mountains, he can also bend the will of those who inhabit them. The more the wall grows, the more its fragility emerges. A wall can be high, long, imposing, but it will never be higher than the fear of those who wanted it. Incursions from the north don't disappear just because the wall exists. Knights find openings, take advantage of the least defended stretches, bribe commanders, use the winter to cross frozen rivers. The wall slows down, hinders, and complicates the life of invaders, but it's not a perfect shield. Watchtowers rise at regular intervals along its route. Each tower is a small, isolated garrison. Inside live soldiers who spend months or years far from everything. They sleep on hard planks, eat plain rice, endure the cold and solitude. Their task is to observe. Observe the sky to determine whether the weather will hinder a potential attack. Observe the plains to catch the first sign of dust raised by distant horses. Observe the smoke to read the signals coming from the other towers. The wall isn't just stone. It's also a communications network. Braziers and flammable materials are prepared at strategic points. A suddenly lit fire can mean a sighting. 2 fires can indicate a greater danger. 3. A very serious threat. In a few minutes, the message can travel tens or hundreds of kilometers. News of an attack thus travels faster than any horse. A line of lights in the darkness connects mountains and valleys, allowing the empire to react before the enemy actually reaches the cities. As the centuries pass, dynasties change. Some sections of the wall are neglected and collapse. Others are reinforced, expanded, rebuilt with better techniques. Each era adds a layer, new towers, new materials, new routes along the ridges. At certain times, even a paradox. China is governed by dynasties descended from the very steppe peoples the wall was supposed to keep out. The wall built to repel them ends up protecting their power as well. Later, with the rise of new dynasties determined to re-establish control, the wall is rethought. No longer just tamped earth or rough stone. Burned bricks were used, drainage systems for rainwater were designed, internal stairs to quickly move troops, and emplacements suitable for firearms and cannons. In some sections, the wall transformed into a veritable fortified corridor that followed the contours of the mountains as if it were a natural extension of them. From above, the wall descends and ascends, bends and reappears among the hills and mist. At its feet, fields, villages, markets. Further away to the north, the horizon of the steppes. For the population living near the border, the wall represented simultaneously protection, toil, and mystery. It was the line beyond which they imagined a different world, inhabited by peoples considered dangerous, but also essential for trade and commerce. Over time, a belief arose that still circulates today. The wall was literally built on the bones of those who worked it. This isn't a historical certainty in every section, but it well describes the Chinese perception. They themselves had its human cost. For many, that wall was not only made of stone, but also of lives. Those who walk on it now often don't think about all this. But each block tells the story of efforts, orders, fears, sacrifices, political decisions, and shattered personal destinies. For centuries, the Great Wall was above all a frontier of work and war. Then the world began to look at it as a symbol. Explorers, travelers, photographers, films, documentaries, all contributed to transforming it into a legend. And with the legend also arose a phrase repeated everywhere. The Great Wall is the only human work visible from space to the naked eye. It sounds great. Too bad it's not really like that. From Earth's orbit, without instruments, the wall is thin, blending in with mountains, roads, rivers, and fields. It's not a luminous line crossing Asia. It's a scar in the landscape, difficult to discern. But its strength is truly striking, not in space. Its strength is on the ground. Today, in some places, it's crowded with tourists. Guides with flags, school groups, couples stopping to take photos, people panting up the steep steps to say, "I was there too." In other places, far from the restored paths, the wall is almost gone. Fallen stones, half-open towers, grass reclaiming everything. For those who built it, it was toil, orders, winter, fear of the nights beyond the horizon. For us today, a simple question. How did they build all this? The Great Wall didn't stop all the wars, it didn't prevent all the invasions. But it survived the kings who wanted it, the armies who walked it, the peoples who should have feared it. If you see it in person one day, try doing something simple. Stop for a moment, stop looking at your phone and look up. That wall that disappears among the hills is the sum of the fears, ambitions, sacrifices, and work of millions of people whose names we will never know. If this story made you see the Great Wall through different eyes, stay with me on this journey. Sign up, and let's go to the next story together.